Hi, welcome to Yoga with Sarah Beebe. I'm Sarah. Let's get started today by finding your comfortable seat, whatever that looks like. You might sit cross-legged, you might sit with legs extended out in front of you. However you choose to find your seated posture is a great place to be. I invite you wherever you're at to begin to lengthen through the back body. Start to grow the crown of the head all the way up towards the sky above. Soften the shoulder blades down the back body and start to perhaps close the eyes. If closing the eyes doesn't feel comfortable for you today, that's okay. Maybe just bring the gaze softly downward. And I invite you to rest the hands wherever they're comfortable, either on the knees or the thighs. If you want to bring a deeper awareness to the breath body, maybe place one hand on your heart and one hand on your navel. Start to settle into your space. Start to notice the breath in the body today. Be a gentle observer in your own body as your breath moves in and out. And this breath is the core of our practice. It is our life force. And so start to feel that energetic life force moving in. Invite it in nice and full on the inhales, expanding. And on the exhales, release which no longer serves you well. Start to feel that power, that energetic power that lives within, in the simplicity of your breath. Perhaps as you bring a deeper awareness into the breath body, you start to count the length of the inhale. And maybe that count is at a 4 or perhaps a 5. So really breathing in, expanding through the belly, the ribs, and the chest. And on your exhale, lengthening out that count. So if your inhale is at a 4 or 5, perhaps your exhale is at a 6 or 7 or even an 8. And let the breath start to fully arrive today. Know that this is the core of the practice from which we move into our asana, or our movement on our mat. Take 1 to 2 more complete breaths here, perhaps steadily counting to yourself on the inhale and the exhale. If you have your hands placed somewhere along your body or along your midsection, feel free to release them to the knees or the thighs if they aren't already there. On your next inhale, sweep the hands high to the sky, slowly lifting them up. Take a pause here, maybe roll out the wrists, open and close the hands. Notice the shoulders. If the shoulders are hugging the earlobes, melt them away. Just a subtle softening of the shoulder blades down the back body. And then inhale, prepare. And on your exhale, gentle twist to the right. And so your hand might come to the opposite knee, or maybe it just rests tented fingertips right in front. Gaze can be to the side, or perhaps it works its way over that back shoulder. That right hand is grounded down behind your hip to lengthen and grow through the spine. And just take a pause here. Soft gaze through the eyes, or even closing the eyes if you choose. Breathing full. Feeling your belly soften on the inhale. And releasing and twisting out that which you no longer need on the exhale. With each inhale you take, maybe your spine lengthens a little bit longer. With each exhale you take, maybe you explore deepening into the twist. But know those are options. Be wherever it feels right in your body to be today. 1 more complete breath in and out. On your next inhale, reach to the sky, lifting hands up. Take a pause for a breath. Roll out the wrists. And then on your next exhale, twist to the other side. Again, option to place that opposite hand to opposite knee, or perhaps it just tends itself in front of you. Grounding down through that back hand behind the hip to lengthen and grow. Soft gaze through the eyes, or perhaps closing them to bring the gaze inward. With each inhale, feel the belly soften. With each exhale, feel a gentle twisting open of the heart. And simply breathe, nice and full. One to two more breaths here. Your next inhale, sweeping hands through center, lifting up, push the palms together, draw the hands to your heart. And take a pause here, resting your thumbs against your beating heart, against your sternum. Maybe closing the eyes, bringing a soft smile to your face, setting an intention for your practice today. Maybe your intention is just showing up, being present with your movement and your breath. Perhaps there's a word or a mantra that comes to mind that you want to manifest on your mat today. You get to decide. So just take a few breaths in this seated posture with your thumbs resting against your heart to breathe what you need into the body and to release your intention or your mantra onto the four corners of your mat. When you feel complete and ready to move on, we'll rock our way forward into tabletop. So coming to all fours, spreading those fingers nice and wide, right under the shoulders, knees come right under the hips. As you find this neutral tabletop spine, just ground down a little bit deeper through the palms. Feel a lift of the heart towards the back body and a gentle separation of the shoulder blades. On your next inhale, lengthen through the crown and the tailbone. Maybe let your gaze walk its way up. Maybe gently drop the belly. On your exhale, round through the back body. If you are pregnant, on your inhale, simply lengthen through the crown and the tailbone. Just start to move with the breath here. Lengthening, maybe finding cow pose. And exhaling, finding cat back. Notice if intuitive movement wants to start to make its way into your practice. Maybe you sway the hips. Perhaps you want to hold cat back for a breath or two. You get to decide. Two to three more complete breaths as you explore this movement through the back body. And finding that neutral tabletop spine, bring some distance between the knees. The knees might even come all the way to the edges of the mat. And then let the head hang heavy. Maybe just let it sway side to side as you feel that release. And then start to sway or move through the hips, perhaps drawing a circular pattern. I like to imagine or bring the visual image to mind of a crayon connected to your tailbone. And that crayon is drawing an oval or a circle right above your space. You might even notice that you push forward with your heart towards the top side of your mat, in the front part of that circle. You might push into a modified child's pose on the back side of that circle. Switch directions when it feels right for you or if it feels right for you. And then slowly make your way right back to your neutral tabletop. Knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. From here, tuck the toes and come to sit back on the heels. Lengthen through the spine. Let the hands rest gently on the thighs. Soft gaze out in front of you. Feel the shoulders melt away from the earlobes. And if it helps, you might reach down and really tuck those toes under. If this feels like too much intensity in the soles of your feet, just simply rise up to a kneeling position, keeping those toes tucked. And this just releases a little bit of weight on the heels, but you're still opening through the base of the foot into the fascial line of the back body. Simply breathe here. Two to four more breaths. If this feels at any point like it's getting too intense, feel free to just simply lift up to that kneeling position. When you feel complete, rock forward into tabletop. Gently slap the tops of the feet against the earth. And we'll prepare for downward facing dog. Bringing the hands a palm's distance in front of the shoulders, tucking the toes. Maybe from here you start to send the tailbone back to the heels. Reach forward, grounding down through the palms. And just gaze up towards the fingertips. Really push down through the thumb and the pointer finger, engaging through the palm of the hand. And then perhaps start to engage through the legs and lift the tailbone up to the sky, melting the heart. Now in your down dog, you can keep that nice deep or subtle bend into the knees if that serves you best. Otherwise, maybe explore straightening the leg and then the other, pedaling the feet, getting into the hamstrings and into the calf muscle. But know that you can have a bend in your down dog. Those knees can be bent if that serves you best. And just start to soften the heart towards the thighs. Engage through the core as your tailbone lifts. Soft gaze to the top of your mat. Begin to tiptoe your way up, nice and slow. If you have a block available to you, feel free to use that here for a little support. Otherwise, option to grab opposite elbows with opposite hands, letting yourself hang heavy here. Know that at any point in practice, a block, if you have one, can be used. You get to decide when you use a prop, if you have them available to you. And then slowly release the hands to the earth if they're not there already. Soft bend comes into the knees, chin tucks, head hangs heavy. Maybe massage your way up the front of the legs as you stack one vertebrae at a time. Rising to the top, rolling out the shoulders, finding your groundedness. And it can help for some to rock forward and back on the ball mounds of the feet. Shrug the shoulders up to the ears, melt them down the back body, releasing the shoulder blades. Palms face out, fingertips soften to the earth. Soft gaze in front of you, gentle smile on the face perhaps. Take a couple deep breaths in and out. Moving through Sun A, inhale, sweep the hands high. Exhale, fold it forward, taking your time as you surrender down. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through the back body. Draw tailbone to the back, crown to the front. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweeping that energy up, gazing towards the hands. Exhale, dive it forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Lift your heart. Exhale, fold. Root to rise as we lift to the sky. Dive it forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Lifting up, sweeping, push the palms together at the top. Draw the hands to heart center. Take a pause. Feel your heartbeat. Perhaps bring your intention that you set at the beginning of your practice to your mind's eye. On your next inhale, sweep the hands high. Exhale, dive it forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Plant the hands. Slowly step your way back into your downward facing dog. Taking some breaths here. Settling in or finding movement. On your next inhale, reach the right leg to the sky. Option to just hover those toes above the mat and find movement through the ankle. Maybe the ankle finds movement as you lift your leg high. Maybe you open the hip up. You get to decide here what this looks like. Sometimes bending into the knee and drawing a circle with your kneecap gets into that hip joint and can feel good for some. And then from here, bringing that foot all the way through into a low lunge. Grounding down, hovering up, tenting up onto the fingertips. Soft gaze right in front of your mat here. And just take a pause to feel that nice long line from the crown all the way to the heel. So you're lifting your heart. And then from here, engaging the core, or if you're pregnant, hugging baby nice and close. Start to take the hands to the thigh. Feel that nice long line still in place. And then lifting up high into crescent lunge. Take a pause here to bend in and out of that back knee. Big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, gentle hinge as you airplane the arms, engaging through the core. Inhale. Exhale. Moving slow. Big inhale, lift up. Exhale, hinge it forward. And once again, inhale. Exhale. Take a pause. Hold here. Really reach those fingers back. Even bend a little bit into that back knee and lengthen to activate that back leg a little more. On your next inhale, lift to the sky. And on your exhale, open the hips, blossom the arms open into warrior two. So we're bending into that front knee, making sure that knee doesn't go over the front toes. Activating through the legs by reaching and pulling the mat apart with the soles of the feet. On your next inhale, find extended side angle. Forearm comes to the thigh. Option to reach that hand straight up or perhaps over the head to create a nice long line once again from fingertips all the way to the heel. Next, inhale, reverse warrior or exalted warrior, lifting up and back. Feel that length being created through the side body, a lift of the ribs. From here, bring arms to neutral, straighten that front leg, and then start to reach those front fingertips as far forward as you can. Tick-tock the arms. Gaze, once again, is wherever it's comfortable. If you have a block or a prop, Feel free to invite that in here. Micro mini bend in that front knee, just to make sure we're not locking out the knee. 2 to 3 more breaths here in triangle. From here, start to lift up into your warrior two, bending right back into that front knee. And then squaring off the hips, swinging that back arm up and around, hopping up on those back toes, high crescent lunge once again. Big inhale. Exhale, come down to the earth, bringing the hands on the inner side of the front foot. Toe heel that front foot all the way out to the edge. Option to keep that back knee lifted and active for a little bit more active lizard pose. Otherwise, you can drop that back knee. Feel free to explore letting that right knee fall open to the knife edge side of the foot, opening through that hip joint a little more. To deepen the stretch even more, maybe come down to the forearms. And again, you can do all of this with an active back leg if you choose to do so. Coming down to the forearms. Two more breaths. Rising up onto the hands if you're on your forearms. We're just going to take that front foot and bring it back to meet the other into a tabletop. And just take, once again, some hip circles. So maybe the knees come a little bit wider than your hips. Maybe switch directions. And bring those knees right back under the hips. Hands are under the shoulders. Once again, preparing for down dog. Place the hands a palm's distance in front of the shoulders. Tuck the toes. Maybe you keep some distance between the knees, especially if you have baby on board. Perhaps send the tailbone back. Take a little modified child's pose here, a little stretch, gazing towards the fingertips, activating through the pads of the fingers. Perhaps start to lift the tailbone up to the sky, finding your downward facing dog. Pedaling the feet, finding any movement here that serves you well or serves you best. And then inviting in some stillness into your down dog. On your next inhale, lift left leg to the sky. Again, option to just hover those toes. Maybe finding movement through the ankle or the hip joint. Maybe opening that hip up. And slowly, on your exhale, bringing that knee all the way through, planting it down into a low lunge. Let's hover up, tenting up onto the fingertips, lifting the heart, creating a nice long line from the crown all the way to the heel. Maybe you keep that lengthened line in the back body by placing the hands on the top of the knee or the thigh. Lifting up all the way into the high crescent lunge. Take a pause to bend in and out of that back knee. And then find that energy travel through the back heel. Activating, lifting. Nice full breath in. On your exhale, gently hinge forward. Airplane the arms. Reach the fingertips back. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hinge it forward. 2 more, just like that. Lifting and hinging. Holding here. Again, option to kind of bend into that back knee a little, just to bring awareness to that energy flowing through the back heel. On your next inhale, lift to the sky, and exhale, open up. Warrior two on the other side. Activate through the legs, bend into that front knee. Rip your mat apart with the soles of the feet. On your next inhale, find extended side angle. Forearm comes to that thigh. Reach up or over, creating a nice long line. Next inhale, reverse warrior. Up and back, creating a C curve of the spine. Always an option to take a bind along that low back as well. Bringing arms to neutral, straighten the front leg, reach as far forward as you can with those front fingertips, tick-tock the arms, triangle pose, micro mini bend in that front knee. Breathing here. Inhale, bending right back into that front knee, finding your warrior two, pausing here. And then swinging that back arm around, squaring off the hips to the front of the mat, hopping up on those back toes. Reaching that back heel towards the back of your mat. Crescent lunge. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, bring the hands to the earth on the inside of that front foot, toe heeling the foot out to the edge. Option to keep that back leg active or dropping the back knee to the earth as we find lizard pose. And once again, maybe explore letting that knee kind of fall open. So rather than having it draw in towards the midline of the mat, maybe it wants to open itself up, getting a little bit deeper into that hip joint. Maybe you choose to come to the forearms. Full breaths wherever you're at. Two to three more breaths here. Coming back up to the hands, tuck the back toes, and we're just going to, from here, take that front foot and come back into a tabletop with toes tucked. And so take this opportunity just to find the hands under the shoulders, knees come right under the hips, toes are tucked. Come once again to sit on the heels. Maybe you reach down and tuck the toes under. Notice how this time it might feel different. We've welcomed in more asana into our practice than we did at the beginning of practice. And so see how this stretch through the bottom of the feet, this opening through the bottom of the feet, how it resonates differently at this stage in practice. Again, if this feels too intense, feel free to lift up onto the knees. 2 to 3 more breaths here. Option to clasp the hands behind the back and lift the heart, maybe the gaze. Slowly release, coming back to tabletop. Feel free to hit the tops of the feet against the earth, against your mat. And we'll find downward facing dog, making your way there however it feels right in your body. Sigh it out with an open mouth exhale. Let your heart melt towards your thighs. Soft gaze to the top of your mat. Feel free to make your way up into a forward fold, tiptoeing your way. Take a little bit of distance between the feet here, about hips distance or wider. Take your peace fingers and wrap them around your big toes into yogi toe lock. And you might just stay right here, letting your body hang heavy, maybe inviting in a subtle bend to the knees. You also can invite in a deep bend to the knees, letting the elbows bow out. And what this does is it gets a little bit more at the low back versus the hamstrings. Feel free to explore that in your body. If you want to explore a little breath movement, on your inhale, lift your heart, lengthen the spine, perhaps into a half lift. Exhale, fold forward, bowing out the elbows. So with each inhale you take, find length. With each exhale, fold. Know that any amount of bending into the knees is welcome. I like to bend my knees a lot. This feels really good on my low back. That's the kind of stretch I prefer in my folds. It's a low back stretch. This helps to open up all of the vertebrae. 2 more complete breaths. And gently releasing the clasp around the yogi, or around the big toes with yogi toe lock grip. Bringing the feet back right under the hips if they were nice and wide. And then again, soft bend comes into the knees. Let the arms hang heavy. Chin tucks. Maybe massage your way up the front of the legs as we round to standing Tadasana. Head is the last thing to lift. Take a moment to find your grounding through the soles of the feet, maybe rocking forward and back on the ball mounds and the heels, bringing hands to heart center. Finding some stillness, connecting to your breath. From here, moving into tree pose by shifting the weight into the right foot and kickstanding the left. You might stay here, just opening through that hip, starting to imagine that the knee is like a gate. You're just subtly opening that gate. Maybe testing the balance by lifting the toes from your kickstand position. It's a great place to be. Otherwise, perhaps bringing the foot to the calf, or maybe the inner thigh. Hands can remain at heart center if you choose, or maybe you grow your branches up, out, to the side. Maybe you want to clasp the hands behind the back. Lots of options, and you get to choose the one that serves you today. Maybe try to enter into this movement or this expression through the arms without much thought. Just see what your body intuitively wants to do. It might be swaying the arms around side to side or reaching them to the sky. There's really no right or wrong. You get to decide what it looks like. Slowly bringing the hands back to your heart center. Bring the knee forward into a one-legged standing Tadasana, option to support the leg here. And just move through the ankle, point and flex the toes. Maybe straighten the leg out in front. And then release. Finding some hip circles, both directions. And we'll gently make our way to the other side, finding tree pose, grounding through the left, kickstanding the right. Bringing hands to heart, finding your drishti focal point or soft gaze. Maybe you just test that kickstand by lifting the toes. Maybe you bring the foot to the calf or to the inner thigh. and deciding if you want to find expression through the arms, whatever that looks like for you today. If you fall out of this pose, that's okay. Balancing postures can be a bit challenging or can test us once in a while, but that's how we grow. That's how we change and evolve. And so if that happens, without judgment, just gently get back into the pose. Bring hands back to heart if they aren't already there. Knee comes forward. Feel free to find movement through the ankle, through the toes, maybe support behind the knee, maybe extend the leg, holding it out in front, engaging through the low core, and release. And again, finding movement through the hips. And from here, bringing the feet nice and wide. See if you can avoid looking down to the earth. So it's our tendency to want to kind of look down and see what we're doing, but use the receptors in the soles of the feet to find the edges of your mat. You might come to kind of the center of your mat as you do so, if you choose. If you have a block or a prop available, feel free to grab that. We'll be preparing it for a yogi squat. So I like to place it kind of right under the base of the tailbone. You don't need to have a prop though, so don't worry if you don't have one. And then from here, turn the toes ever so slightly out, bringing the hands to heart center. On your own time, moving as slow as you can, start to bend into the knees, making your way slowly. You'll come to a point where you kind of want to adjust and move around a little. Maybe that prop needs to be adjusted as well. If you have a prop to sit on, a block or a stool or even a book, you can come to that place. You also can do this without the support of a prop, like so. Pressing the elbows against the inner parts of the knees, bringing hands to heart. If this feels too intense, you can come to camper squat, bringing the forearms to the thighs. Feet are facing parallel, pointing forward, and just letting the tailbone kind of soften to the earth. So however you choose to find this squat pose is a great place to be, no matter how you get there, no matter what it looks like. Just honoring where you're at. We'll be here for 4 to 6 breaths, breathing nice and full into the body. Breathing into the hips. And it's worth mentioning, if you are pregnant, the only time you should not do this full yogi squat pose is if you are 38 weeks or 37 weeks with a breech baby. So just avoid this if that pertains to you. You can just find some standing hip circles as an alternative. Getting into the hips. When you feel complete, we'll place the hands down to the earth. Slowly lift the tailbone. And just bend back and forth into the knees. Place the feet hips distance or wherever they're comfortable. Option to find ragdoll. Grabbing opposite elbows with opposite hands. Letting yourself hang heavy. And then release the hands to the earth. Step back slowly into your downward facing dog. making your way. And from here, we'll bring the knees nice and wide to the edges of the mat. Toes come to touch. Sink the hips back to the heels. Let the forehead rest heavy on something. So perhaps as you find your child's pose, you stack your forearms or your fists. If touching the earth or touching your yoga mat with your third eye doesn't feel comfortable or feels too intense, you can always take a variation or a modification of that. So really, again, there's no right or wrong. You just get to decide where that place is. You can even use the support of a prop, a block or a book or a pillow or something to come over under the third eye center. And when we apply pressure on that third eye, we're just activating a sense of calm in the body. Allow your breath to flow here. Be curious about how the breath chooses to move through the body. Where does it go? Where does it not go? Or rather, where does it not want to go? Just be curious about that. On your own time, when you feel ready to rise up out of child's pose, feel free to come into your tabletop. Take some organic movement, maybe some hip circles or some puppy dog wags of the tail, maybe some cat and cow. Anything goes here. And we'll make our way down to seated. Finding butterfly pose. So coming to Baddha Konasana. Knees are nice and wide. Soles of the feet are pressed together. Now, everybody has a little bit of different flexibility in the hips. And so if you want to draw those feet in towards the body, you're welcome to. They can be out nice and far in front of you as well, if your hips feel tight today. Finding the sits bones beneath you. Maybe rock a little side to side just to feel grounded into the sitting bones. Lengthen through the back body. And then when you're ready, start to fold over the feet. Maybe you crawl the hands forward depending on how flexible or open you feel in the hips today. And your hinge forward might look like coming from sitting to here, and that's okay. That's a great place to be as well. I invite you to breathe. Slowly lift up, keeping that butterfly pose in the legs, and just find some movement through the head and the neck. Maybe bringing one ear to one shoulder, perhaps applying a subtle, very gentle pressure to deepen the stretch. Switching sides if you're choosing to find that stretch. You can also just move the head in a circular pattern. Three to four more breaths here, exploring any sort of stretching through the neck. You can also massage into the shoulders and the neck muscles if that serves you well, if you need a little bit of touch. And then from here, we're going to bring the feet as wide as your mat and come to kind of rest on the hands. Rest or propped up behind you. Feet are nice and wide. They might even be wider than the mat. Knees are bent. Just start to tick-tock the knees side to side. And we're just getting that inner rotation of the hips. do a lot of outer rotation of the hips, but not a whole lot of inner. So just notice how that feels in the body. Maybe you move with the breath. With each inhale, you drop to one side, and exhale, you come through center. Or you can just move at your own pace as well. And from here, we're going to make our way down to our back body. So gliding your way on down, rolling to your back. Knees are bent. Take that right ankle, cross it over the left knee. Maybe you stay right here. That right foot is flexed and the right knee is drawing away from the body towards the bottom of the mat. If you would like a deeper stretch or would like to explore a deeper stretch, feel free to lift that left foot off the ground, drawing the left knee towards the body, and maybe interlacing the hands behind the thigh or on top of the shin. As you do so, you might want to experiment with using that right elbow to apply a subtle pressure on the inner part of the right knee. Maybe rock side to side. Just getting into a hip opener. And releasing back to the earth, we'll uncross the leg. And just windshield wiper the knees side to side once again. We'll prepare to make our way to the other side, crossing left ankle over right knee. Maybe staying here, drawing that knee away from the body, flexing the foot, or perhaps lifting the right knee towards your body, interlacing the hands. Taking this at any variation that serves you best. Maybe using that left elbow to gently apply a pressure to push the left knee away from the body. Maybe rocking. Inviting in some active stretching, some movement. Releasing from here, bringing both feet to the earth. And again, windshield wiper the knees, side to side. Draw the knees in towards the body, giving yourself a giant hug. Rocking, massaging the back body. And finding happy baby by letting the knees draw in towards the armpits, lifting the soles of the feet to the sky, legs are at a 90-degree angle, grabbing inner or outer arches of the feet, whichever serves you best. And again, maybe rocking here as well, massaging into the back body. Option to extend one leg and the other or both legs to stretch into the hamstrings. And then taking a giant stretch, reaching the feet to the bottom of the mat, the hands to the top, maybe wiggling a little side to side before softening the arms down along the sides of the body into your final resting pose. And so make any adjustments here to settle into this final resting pose. Let the shoulder blades melt and kind of almost tuck under the body. Take a big inhale and exhale. And start to feel a giving way of your weight to the earth. The earth holds you here in this space. Making any adjustments to settle in. Letting go of effort in the breath, letting the breath be free and easy. Closing the eyes if it feels comfortable. Releasing the tongue from the roof of the mouth so the jaw softens. Imagining your muscles gently melting away from the bones as you soften even more. And let yourself soak up this final resting pose. For some, this is the hardest pose of practice. Letting go of any effort in the body and in the breath and in the mind. Allowing yourself to just be. Noticing any sounds in your external environment, noticing any thoughts in your internal environment, and letting them just pass by. Thoughts float by like clouds. Sounds travel in and out of your space. And you are fully present in your body and in your heart. Slowly begin to bring awareness back to the breath. Know that you have the option to stay here longer if you choose. Otherwise, if you're ready to be guided out, begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes. If you're on your back body, still perhaps rock your head side to side, massaging the back of your head against the earth. And then slowly begin to roll to one side, finding the fetal position, using the arm as a pillow. Keeping the eyes closed or soft gaze, slowly begin to lift up into a comfortable seat, rising. Letting hands rest on your knees or your thighs, or perhaps bringing one hand to heart and one hand to your navel. Feel the breath move in the body. Breathe in gratitude. Both hands can come to heart, or just simply bring your intention or your awareness to your heart. Being aware of your heartbeat. Being aware of your breath. Bringing intention, awareness, or perhaps hands to your third eye. That space between your eyebrows. And trusting your intuition on your journey. Thank you for showing up on your mat today. Reminding yourself to take care of yourself in the midst of life's journey as you move forward, whatever that looks like for you. And when we take care of ourselves, we take care of others. Thank you for showing up. Be well.